few folks that are so important in supporting the work of Russell Place of Promise. Again, my name is Cassandra Webb. I am one of the co-leads for our POP. I lead our people side of the work.
And I am Teresa Zawaki, and I am the other co-lead for Russell Place of Promise, and I lead our place-based initiatives.
All right. And we want to welcome someone to the stage that you all heard last night and is so familiar to the Russell neighborhood, Miss Jackie Floyd.
To the beautiful, historic Russell community, a community that I love. And before I sit down, when I speak, I always have to drop a bit of history about Russell so you can know how proud I am of the residents that have held Russell down, for not years, but for decades, okay? Teresa told me that I only have a minute, so let me get to it right quick, okay? And I'm so thankful for that because I woke up this morning. I said to about 2:30 this morning, what am I going to say that won't get me in trouble and that won't get our pop in trouble, okay? Because at 70 years old, I have a mouth and I had two mouths then before that, but I have a mouth and I'm not running for office. And I'm not looking for another job, so I can say what I want to say, how I want to say it, as long as I say it in a respectful way. But when I woke up this morning, the word church popped into my mind. So I had to think the pastors, I had to think those old sisters that had those bake sales, the deacons that handled the money, and that raised our building fund that we always had, because you know back in the day, every black church had a building fund, okay? And you gave a nickel, a dime, or a dollar. Those churches, with those accountants, those organizers, those schedules, they were the backbone of the Russell community. And they continue to be the backbone of the community. They raised us, and this generation of mine, we said what happened back then, the lack of investment, and all that other stuff, that's old. Today is a new day. We want our Russell community to have what the other communities have. We want our tax dollars to stay in our community. We want tax dollars that help build those other communities, Middletown, North Thomas. We want their tax dollars in our community because we are entitled and we deserve to have everything that other communities have, because this is a new day in Russell, and we're not asking, we're not begging anymore. We are demanding that we have that coffee shop, that bookstore. I am tired of leaving my community, taking my dollars, 2 cents actually, to other communities. I want to be able to spend my money in my community, so my community continue to thrive, and I can leave my black wealth for my babies and my grandbabies.
Thank you for that. That was a great start to the day, and really, I love the idea of the church fund as a way for the community to build together, to build wealth, to build something that's tangible in the neighborhood that's a reflection of the community's priorities. So we're going to start the program today with that in mind, and at this point, I want to introduce our next speaker, who's going to help us tie that idea of the community and the community involvement in designing and implementing its own progress to the national level. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Mary Ellen Wiederwald, the Executive Director of the Just talk loud. Just talk loud.
She didn't tell me I was going to have to follow Jack's.
No, that's my voice.
I was born with an outdoor voice. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Mary Ellen Wieterwohl. I lead Accelerator for America. That's my current job. Most of you I know from an old job I had where I got to work with you every day, working for the city of Louisville, leading economic and community development. So it is a particular joy to be here today because I kind of get to wear my old hat and my current hat standing on this stage with you. At Accelerator for America, we work with cities across the country to find and develop the best ideas to solve for economic security and to share, scale, and replicate those across the country. We are proud to be sponsors of this event because we think this is one of those great solutions that should be shared across America. And that's why we're here and that's what we're going to do. So first, congratulations to everybody for what you have done and what you will continue to do to be a national model. This is a day of celebration, an event to reflect on where we've been over the last 5 years. So I did a little bit of that, thinking about the journey, and I'm sure we've all thought about how the journey that brought us here. I thought about the first conversation I had with Tim Berry, then leading the Metro Housing Authority. We had all these success with Hope 6 grants, and we're all looking at Beecher and saying, okay, is it next? Can it be next? And he said, yes, let's go to Russell next. Let's do Beecher Terrace. And then 3 years after that initial conversation, I was standing with several of you in Chef Space when we hosted the team from DC. And we gave our best pitch. We said, believe in us, invest in Russell. And they did. And now, of course, Beecher Terrace is well underway in transforming this neighborhood. I thought about the room that I was in 2018 when this whole idea was germinating. And I thought about the first time I heard Anthony Smith say, Russell, a place of promise. And I was sharing that story with a colleague. I'm joined today by Ann Laverne-Nevins, who is Accelerator's Director of Economic Development, making her first trip to Louisville. Everybody's making her welcome. Thank you. And I said to Ann, some of my other colleagues about that day where this idea was born, and I said, I was in the room where it happened. Anybody know Alexander Hamilton? Yeah. The room where it happened. I thought about what a great metaphor that is for what we're doing here. And so think about the lyrics to the song. No one really knows the game that is played, the art of the trade, the sausage that is made. We're all left out of some of those rooms sometimes, right? I want to be in the room where it happens. It's a perfect metaphor because what Russell, a Place of Promise, has done is created the room where it happens. Given Russell residents, Russell business owners, Russell believers a room to make it happen. A room where opportunity is available for everyone, an opportunity where everyone has a say in what's going to happen in your neighborhood, the place you call home, the place you love. So congratulations, and I am really thrilled to be in this room where we're going to keep making it happen.
So much for your leadership of this wonderful organization and bringing us to where we are here today and moving forward. That's great. Your leadership has been great. Mary Ellen, you all have done amazing work also in your prior career to help also support this and many other wonderful projects here around Louisville. And Ms. Jackie Floyd, you are amazing. I have learned so much from you over the years. When I first started campaigning for office, of course, I had been to Russell. I had been to some of the larger institutions that are here in Russell, whether it's the African American Heritage Center or whether it's the Urban Leagues and Norton Track and Field Center, or I'd certainly eaten at Sweet Peaches before. But Miss Jackie, what she helped me do was really get to know the people of Russell so much better, which I think is the true heart and soul. And as I ran for mayor, literally, and also by running through every one of the 623 precincts, I got to meet so many wonderful people who live in Russell, who are passionate about Russell yesterday, today, and most importantly, tomorrow, and are committed to working with everyone in this room, to working with others, and as Mary Ellen said, that want to be in the room where it happens, to be a part of Russell Place of Promise on the project at 30th and Madison and elsewhere, to continue to move this amazing neighborhood with great, rich history to move it forward. We have a lot of great things that are going on. You heard Mary Ellen talk about some of the things that she's been working on with people in Russell for many years. But I also know we need to continue that great work. And I'm also excited about the new work that's being done by Russell Place of Promise and other organizations to continue to move this neighborhood forward and to move other neighborhoods that have been neglected for far too long, for your and my entire lifetime. Now is the time. We cannot wait any longer to continue to invest in neighborhoods like Russell so that people stronger and healthier. And so that's what I'm excited about, what you all are doing and what we can do together. Our administration will continue to support organizations like Russell Place of Promise that are doing these things, that are working to build more affordable housing in partnership with Rebound, that are supportive of community land trusts, that are working to help elderly and disabled homeowners complete needed repairs on their homes. Might take for granted, but that other people could use a little bit of help with. And there is such exciting possibility at the corner of 30th and Madison Street. I love to build things. I spent my entire career on urban revitalization projects. And so just thinking about what's possible at 30th and Madison really is exciting to me. We've seen things just recently here in the past few weeks that are happening because there's great momentum here in the Russell neighborhood. Just last week, Gore's Smokehouse Barbecue opened on 18th Street, and there's another wonderful project, Mary Ellen, I think it was you who just mentioned, the Super Chef space, right around the corner from there, to have wonderful more restaurant outlets for them. We know what's going on with the Norton West Louisville Hospital, the Goodwill Industry Opportunity Campus. Those are transformational projects, and whether it's large projects like that or smaller projects like Gore's Smokehouse Barbecue and Black Coffee and other small individually owned businesses, we need to support all of that, large and small. And that aligns well with what our administration is focused on doing and what we in our recent budget proposal are proposing to do, including investing $15 million in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We're adding $6 million to support more real grocery stores, so that just as Jackie was talking about a minute ago, that the amenities and services and stores and restaurants and retail establishments that people in other parts of Louisville take for granted, that those same things exist here in Russell and in the other neighborhoods of West Louisville, in Newburgh, in South Louisville. And so one of those things is to help support more real grocery stores, and our budget is going to do that. We're going to continue to support the Revert Initiative to combat the effects of redlining, the Goodwill Industries Opportunity Campus that I just talked about. I know it's not in Russell, it's just to the north in Portland, but the Family Health Services Clinic centers, they serve many people who live in Russell. And so we're going to support more preventative care and primary care happening there, because we need more medical facilities here in the Russell neighborhood and others. And again, while it's not Russell, but it's just a neighboring neighborhood in the California neighborhood, we're proposing to make a groundbreaking $5 million investment in the Family Life Center to help support revitalization in the California neighborhood, another neighborhood like Russell that has wonderful people whose neighborhood has been overlooked for far too long. And then for every neighborhood in Louisville, what I hope the legacy of our administration is making universal pre-K a reality, so that every child who grows up in Russell, who grows up in any other neighborhood in Louisville, has the opportunity to start their education at the age of 3. Research is clear. Kids that start their education early will lead safer lives, healthier lives, they'll have more opportunities for success, they will more likely feel confident that they have the ability to pursue their hope and dream, whatever that might be. And so our administration is working very focused on that. We can only do all of this with the right partners. And certainly Russell Place of Promise is one of those amazing partners that our administration looks forward to continuing to partner with. So I'm very excited about what you all are going to be talking about today, to hearing about the conversations about this convening, to hearing how you all are focused on moving forward with the neighbors throughout Russell to make the project of 30th and Madison and other things initiative. My one encouragement is get started. You can't wait for perfection. And so I give this same encouragement to everyone that's working on projects throughout Louisville right now. We need to continue celebrating good news, to see great progress in Louisville after the challenges of the past few years that we've had. And so with all of the feedback that you've gotten, I know there are many great ideas. We want to support that action, and so we will support you as you all move forward. And just finally, I know there are some people that are not from Louisville in this room. And I just want to share with you that before you leave town, if you need a moment of inspiration while you're here in the Russell neighborhood, if you need an image to remind you of everything that is possible in the world, I encourage you to just go a couple of blocks away, here in the Russell neighborhood, to 930 West Chestnut Street. It's the Chestnut Street YMCA. And there, you will see a brand new 7-story mural of a young man who ran in these streets here in Russell on his way to and from Central High School. That man is Muhammad Ali. And whenever I see that mural, even though I've already seen it a lot, just in the past few weeks that's been up, it feels like he's telling me and he's telling everyone that sees that mural to keep going. Use him as an inspiration to keep going, to achieve your dreams, to do what others might not think is possible. And I know that you all are here today because you're committed to working with Russell Place of Promise to keep going, to make this dream possible. So I'm very excited to see how this goes. I'm very excited about working on other projects here at the Russell neighborhood and other neighborhoods around Louisville, inspired by our Muhammad Ali. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to working together with each and every one of you.
All right. I'm going to come to this podium over here, just to balance out the stage. So our next speakers that you all will hear from will be talking about the importance of Black neighborhoods and storytelling. Our facilitator for this conversation really has been someone that is so inspiring and always has a motivational word. She is such a beautiful spirit, an artist, a curator. She just announced 6 months ago that she is the new director of the University of Louisville's Women's Center. And she was also an artist and advisor for the Russell Storytelling Project. I want to do a quick plug before she comes to the stage to the Russell Storytelling Project. Some of the artwork that was in our exhibit is across over here. There's some beautiful artwork that I encourage you to check out throughout today. And also some of the artists we heard from last night and we'll also hear from today. You all also received the For Your People Next Door book in your gift bag, so please check that out. And if you all have any questions about that project, please feel free to ask our facilitator or ask Daphne or Donnea on our team about that. But the next voice you will hear, it will be Dr. Jabani Bennett, our facilitator for the conversation.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. We are here. Yes. So I have the privilege of being here and super grateful because I work with the Russell Storytelling Project, and it's with such joy to see this book to demonstrate the hard work, the research, and the very intentional collaboration that came through. And so we are going to start. One thing that blew my mind in the project was there were so many layers that exist, whether it was the innovation around funding and the models that exist there. You could spend forever just looking at that made so many parts of the project a success. And the success, I'm saying the residents are definitely sharing that they feel seen and heard, and that's the success criteria I'm talking about. As well as using art as a way of shifting narratives, and so we're going to hear more about that from our panelists. as well, and that's very hard, especially if there's been stories that's been told over and over with a lot of trauma and disinvestment for so many years. And the collaborative work. There was always, I felt like with any part of working with the incubator, I felt like I was part of Beyonce's formation, because we all had to play a part, and sometimes you couldn't see the far end of what Cassandra and the team was going, because I was like, do you want to go that way? Then nah, baby, nah, we going this way. I'm like, but that's never been done. And they would say it has been done. So they would do a lot. There was so many different parts that were going on. I was blown away, because I've studied leadership approaches, and I was like, yo, I was so amazed, and it was such a joyful ride. But I would like to invite Miss Jackie Floyd again to the stage. All right, Miss Jackie Floyd. Okay, that's all right. She's been working hard since this morning, and she's gonna speak in the position. Miss Jackie, everybody clap for Miss Jackie! Yes. And Althea Dyson from Louisville Story Program. And so we're going to have these different voices, and we was also going to have Elijah Davis if he's able to come. There was a delay in travel. So we're going to have the perspective as a Russell resident, speaking to the lived experience, and also different approaches to shift a narrative collectively. And we'll have Althea Dryden, who will speak to different ways to do that, organization and with community. All right, so I have a question first for Miss Jackie. You are a long-time resident. Why is it important to you to tell the history of Russell to existing residents, to non-residents, to the community, to the world? Why is it important?
To me, it's really important. I've always heard something about, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. And with the media today and yesterday, they have, what you trying to candy coat everything, don't you? So like this. Okay. On this side of 9th Street, which is the Black community, we get so much negative attention. So the people on the other side of 9th Street, if you read between the lines, they get to feel safe and secure. They have by them thinking our balance is on this side of 9th Street, that we have no history, they get to feel safe in their community, because my God, those people over there, they don't know where they came from or anything like that. So that's why I want the world to know that Russell is full of rich history. Okay, we produced an Albert Mazik, who got the first Black full service library in the United States. We have Representative Adam Scott that came from the Beach and Terrace housing project with the statistics against her. But despite and despite, she was elected to office, a state representative, a young Black girl from the projects. Oh my word. I want them to know about how the Black folks in Russell and in the West End, how we felt when it was treated unjustly. It was that we came together and we marched and we protested. It's very important to know that Central Colored High School produced architects, doctors, tailors, beauticians. It's important for people to know that our churches, the backbone of our community, produce accountants, bakers. They were there. They were still strong. It's important that we know the history of how our children, how the church fed our children, not only emotionally, spiritually, and financially. They were the backbone of the community. So it's important for them to know not just about some of the nice people in the community, but it's important for them to know everything about our community and what happened in our community. And despite what happened, and that was supposed to happen, it didn't happen, we, Black folks in Russell and the West End, we're not survivors. We have made it, and we continue to make it. And with our young folks coming up stronger and better and taking our lead, they got this.
Yeah. All right. And also shout out to the indigenous folks that were around in the space as well. So, Ms. Jackie, how do you work towards historic preservation in your work? What does that look like from you in this on this journey?
Not tearing down the home. I'm trying not to talk as much. I have asthma, and I would sense the perfumes that was starting to kick my butt. That's why I was out there in the hallway taking too close of my inhaler, as I would say. So I'm trying to do the best I can. What I've noticed in other cities is that they are preserving the older buildings, the ones built in 1800s and 1900s. But Louisville, what I've noticed, has a knack. Anything old, they're tear down and build these new glass buildings and all of the stuff like that. And it just reminds me of how come the old and the new can't be mixed together. Okay, because these old buildings in Russell, if you just walk through the history is jumping out at you, telling you something about how strong these buildings are, how they still are very sturdy after the 1800 tornado in the Russell community. They're still standing. So we need to capitalize on those buildings as long as we build new buildings to come together. And I don't know if that makes sense or not. The inhaler hasn't got to my brain yet, okay?
Oh, good. Giving us a survey of different approaches that we can use when we see, our city. You were a part of the early planning for Russell Place of Promise and supported the development of the communications and branding. Can you tell us what inspired you? How did you craft the images and the messaging of the work? What was all shared with us? Thank you.
I actually want to speak to the question you just asked Jackie.
Okay, yes.
About how she does historic preservation.
Okay.
Jackie is historic preservation. I've long been amazed, not just by all that she knows, and can regurgitate in a moment's notice, but I've seen her teach people. So I know the art pop team would say most of what they learned about Russell came from Jackie, but I've seen that with people from folk who don't know things that they learned from Jackie, and I've also seen her in events, hearing other people talk about Russell, and I remember one time she's like, I need something to write on. She was writing on a napkin because there was something she didn't know, and she wanted to add that to her toolbox. So I think she is another way that the history of Russell is preserved, and that's just really important to note because we need a lot of Miss Jackies. We need a lot more Miss Jackies. So to speak to our pop and the history of our pop, it was It's a very gracious question to say that I was a part of the messaging and whatnot. So I really had to think about that because I don't remember a time before Daphne. If you're in the mix of starting an organization, get you with Daphne, who has a graphic design background and can just take that stuff and run with it. But when I think about the beginning of RPOP, so 2018, Mary Ellen spoke to being in that room. I was in that room. We were figuring it out, right? There was this great vision, bringing people together, trying to figure out what the work would really be. And those first couple of years, I kind of likened to online dating when you get your cute little profile pictures. We had our little logo and little t-shirts. And we put ourselves out there, but not too much, because we knew that the work wasn't about being for community, it was about being of community. And we had to get in community to really speak to not what we wanted, but what we knew, or what we wanted to know what Russell residents wanted and needed. And so that's the first couple of years were kind of like that. And then we hired, like December 2019, I think, you're going to correct me on everything I say wrong. 2019, we were smart enough to hire Miss Jackie, and as the first kind of staff person. Russell Place of Promise was a part of Cities United. It still is, and it's transitioning out, but so the work that I was doing was via Cities United, but trying to hold the language and whatnot. And maybe a month or two later, this was February of 2020, we hired 6 community outreach workers, all of whom lived in Russell. That was a part of the deal. We hired a number of outreach workers. Who were the other people? We hired a bunch of people at the same time. I don't know what they did. But the point being, we were ready to start working. We were ready to get out in the community, do things. We moved our offices from the Portland area to Russell. And so we had the people, we had the place. And is that feedback? I'm sorry. And but literally before the paint could dry, before people were onboarded, COVID hit. We had this great plans and everybody had to go home. And so, this was the time before anybody did anything on Zoom. So we had to pivot. And the messaging went from, before that, we were doing events. We had done some community events. We were trying to get out there and meet people. And I think that's when you build both. We were building relationships, we were building a reputation, so that when COVID hit, we were able to pivot and go online and serve people. We were giving out food and hand sanitizer and all that good stuff. People knew to come to us that trusted us, which, in a time, early days, it's almost hard to remember how stressful those days were. But we built a relationship that allowed people to come to us and say.
And I just want to pause because I apologize. I would like if you could share more about your organization so we know who the we are and your key priorities. Who are you when you're saying we came out there?
Well, in this instance, we is RPOP. So back then I was part of the team. So that's the we back then. But we also included community partners that we had who now, of course, I can't remember. Ag in the City was certainly one of them. We had folks every week bringing in fruits and vegetables and all the products that people were needing, not able to go to the store to get. Play Cousins, absolutely. They were supplying things for parents who were staying at home, coloring, but all that kind of stuff that seemed so precious at that time. RPOP was able to transition and become the people who did that. And I say all that as an example of the messaging and the branding. I really think the brand that is RPOP was cemented during those early days of the pandemic. And of course, no one predicted that. That wasn't the trajectory. But it really speaks to the team they were very responsive. Like this stuff happened within 2 weeks. We had a full service system going on. It was amazing. And again, this was a new team of folks. we're just getting to know each other, much less figure out the neighborhood and also navigate COVID and everything else that was happening in our country and in our city. And so the notion of having this team that suddenly kind of gelled and they became the brand. They weren't out. They were basically in the office. They did. Now, I do remember Jackie being very clear about not everyone is going to access our information and our resources online. We have to somehow get out in the street safely. So we made our pop face masks and our pop hand sanitizer, and we were out. They were out. That was not me. Out doing that work. And so, it's hard to, I was thinking, if they've been around for 5 years during the pandemic, and to know all that they've done is quite remarkable. So, but like I said, I think that brand started then with the reputation building and the relationship building with partners and neighbors, and it is what it is today because of that. They are resilient and responsive. Excuse me. One thing I also want to add is, and I know there's some folks, our pop was always designed to be a model. And so one of the things I think they've always done really well is document their own story, their own process. This is how we've done things. These are the lessons we've learned. You all have this book in your swag bag. Page 81 is actually my favorite page. There's no pictures, there's nothing about it that you would think, oh, that's my favorite page too. Except it is the page where they say, here's what we learned in this process. Here's what we did wrong. Here's what we wish we knew different. That's how you model anything, is to be able to say, oops, here's what you need to know moving forward. So, and that's who they are. So, I hope that answers your question.
That was looking in the book. That's so wonderful. In your role with the story program, how do you elevate voices and leadership of storytellers? How do you do that?
Okay, so I'll take this time to say where I am now.
Okay.
Louisville Story Program. We are a local nonprofit, literary arts nonprofit. Our mission is to amplify the stories and amplify the voices, preserve the stories of the people who are in the historically underrepresented, under-resourced communities in our city. We've been around for 10 years, and the work that we have done in partnership with authors, of course, Ms. Jackie is one, and community partners, speaks to our mission in a way that when I think about LSP and RPOP and the mutual storytelling that happens, LSP kind of holds the role of preservation not in that kind of scrapbook museum put on a shelf kind of way. That's not what we're about. It really is about spending time with authors. It's their story. It's about owning your story and telling your story, and we just kind of guide people along that process. There's it's a lot of editorial. But it really is about getting it from the person to the page in a way that allows us to leverage that in other ways beyond the publication. And so some of the ways that we've worked with communities, we've had several of the projects we've done over the years have been in schools, historically underserved schools. We've done books in Shawnee High School, Central High School, Iroquois High School, working with like semesters-long writing projects with students there to tell their stories. Young people, very rarely do they get the opportunity outside of social media to really dig in and tell their stories and their family stories. We have done a book with the Dirt Bowl community. For those of you not from Louisville, the Dirt Bowl is a 50-plus year ongoing basketball tournament in West Louisville and Shawnee Park. We worked with the coaches and fans and players to document the history of the Dirt Bowl. We've done a similar kind of book with the folks who work on the backside of Churchill Downs, another very distinct community that is under-resourced. And we also have an arm of our work that is around Black photographers. Bud Dorsey was a photographer in Louisville who documented Black Louisville for decades. He'd be here taking pictures right now if he were still alive. And we produced a beautiful coffee table book of his work. We are currently working on a project with Louisville's Black gospel community that is that is going to result in a 3 CD box set with videos and audio, and all this stuff is going to be publicly available. It's very much about archiving but making it available to people. And then the book that we just released, it's about Russell. It's called If You Write Me a Letter, Send It Here, Voices of Russell in a Time of Change. We partnered with 26 Russell residents, current former Russell residents, including Miss Jackie, to give them a platform. You know, all the changes you've been hearing about, there was recognition. 2019 was when this project first started. There was a recognition of all the changes that were about to happen, and people had the foresight to say, we need to capture this. So it wasn't just with tearing down Beecher Terrace, for example. There are certainly folks tied to Beecher in here. But more than that, it was we want to document this point in time. And so these residents, the authors in here, represent people who always lived in Russell, who moved out of Russell, who moved into Russell, and it's a love letter to Russell, and it's a love letter to Louisville. This, you know, we didn't write this book at all. The authors didn't write these stories necessarily for their neighbors, because the neighbors know those stories. They wrote them for everybody else. And so the three authors, so when I started at LSP, it was November of 2021. So the book was coming to a kind of a conclusion, and I was able to get 3 authors, all tied to RPOP, of course, to be in the book and serve as their editor, and had the joy of, and I'm going to kind of blend in your second question, of that process and leadership and what that means to elevate someone's story. I knew all the people that I worked with. I worked with Haven Harrington, who you'll hear from later. His family has lived in Russell for generations. His story could have been any number of things. He kind of focused more on his grandfather, who had long been in Russell. He was a famous barber, and he told the story. He told his story, and then he kind of told, if you know Haven, you know he knows him, pays attention, very much like Miss Jackie, to what's going on politically, and he speaks to that in his chapter, and it really talks about the value of preserving that family legacy and what that means. And then Christian Butler, who used to work for RPOP, she's the youngest author in the book. She moved into Russell during this time and didn't know a whole lot, and she credits Miss Jackie for teaching her everything she knows about Russell. But it's not just the things that she knows, it's the way it's landed in her. And how important it is to her to live in Russell. And her story is kind of about the value of preserving community history. She was the youngest person in the book, but she really speaks to how important the history was to her and to make her love her neighborhood and appreciate it differently. And then Jackie is Jackie. Probably my favorite interviews were with Jackie at her house when the audio was turned off. Those are the best stories. Didn't make the book, but they made my brain. But you know, her story talks about the value of elevating your voice to actually preserve a neighborhood. And so all of those ways that we preserve not just the stories, but again, it's not just about this happened way back then. It's about what does it mean to have that agency? You know, so often we are told that our stories don't matter, and it's such a privilege to see people say their story, see it written out, and see it differently, own it differently. This particular book was interviews, so there's 26 authors, multiple interviews. You know, we'd have a transcript. We would take that transcript to kind of edit it and put the story in some kind of order, give it back to the author. They would revise. So there were several processes. You know, that went on for a long time. And to get to a place where people see themselves and their story differently was really special. But it was, I hadn't, until that question, I hadn't thought about it as leadership, like giving someone that platform to lead. But I think once you're able to, you know, show somebody a book, these are very well done, beautiful books. And so it's a point of pride, but it also gives you a different place to talk from, because then you have other people who suddenly know things about you. You don't know them, they know things about you. And they are using what you said to shape how they think about a whole community. So that there's a power there and responsibility there. Jackie didn't need a book to do that, but some of these authors did. You know, this would have been the first time they've done anything like this. Our books always have a big community book launch where they are reading, and we always try to leverage, when people want authors to come read, we try to leverage and negotiate to get them paid to do that. So that's another way that shows up. And we leverage opportunities that come from the books. We try to really continue that relationship with authors so that they are always owning their story.
Thank you. Wow. Both of you gave us a lot to think about. Now, looking at, this is a question to both of you, about the moments where at other times in other organizations with other projects, there are these really hard moments where you could fail, or it could get messy, because there was a lot of people involved in this incubator, so many people, so many voices. What were the moments that you saw a shared leadership where people pivot, where the group pivoted in a way that was inspiring, that spoke to the different processes that made it successful? Again, success criteria, residents are feeling really good. So what were the moments for you as you think back, whether from the very beginnings or to even yesterday, where you felt, I saw a pivot, I saw a shift? Because we are speaking about narrative shifts, and that takes a long time, but it's those tiny little moments that brings it all together, that brings it all into formation. So what were those moments for you? And after that, I can definitely speak to my own experience, being within and on the periphery, just reading. But yes, please speak. Miss Jackie, would you, the moments where you're like, this is good.
Well, I can say, so, and I hope this answers your question, because I've just, in that moment, I realized the pivot that COVID caused both at RPOP and at the Local Story Program. And both of which resulted in a shift in, not a mission shift, but a focus that COVID forced people to pay attention to. For the book, for example, like I said, these author interviews started in 2019, and we just released the book a month ago. So there were folks who were interviewed in 2019, and then everybody kind of fell off the radar, and then we had to pick those stories up again, maybe a year later on some of them, to be able to think of everything that changed for you personally just because of COVID. The story that you were telling before versus the story you tell now shifted. The organization had to shift. It was because of the funding that was given for documenting these stories. We happened to receive that funding before COVID and sustain the organization through COVID. Had we not received those fundings, who knows what that would have looked like. But that pivot to, now we see this neighborhood different too because of COVID. Because everybody changed, things shifted with authors. during that time, during the time they were writing this book. With ARPA, you know, it's everything they do is a pivot, I think.
Can you repeat that?
Everything they do is a pivot. And that is a compliment. I hope that's how that came across. They are always able to, like I said, be responsive, but they're open-hearted and you know, I'm looking at this banner behind you. I'm reminded that I've never seen I've challenged anyone to find a post or an email or publication from ARPOD that doesn't reflect intergenerational Black joy and hope, which is Russell, right? That's exactly what Russell is. But I know I saw the sausage making. I know what goes on behind the scenes. It's working with people to help other people, and in a time that is unpredictable, we'll say that. All they've done is pivot, and it is remarkable to see, not just from the beginning to now, but to see all along the way. Our pop is always doing something, and it's never small. It's always big, it's always bold, it's always with community, for community, in community, about community, which means that's why you always see all those faces, because that's what it takes. That is the promise.
I seen the pivot right as our pop was getting started. Family Dollar filed 25 applications to sell some type of alcohol product in the community across the city. But as you know, most Family Dollars are located in a financially challenged community. I don't say the word poor, and I'm not going to get into the reason I say that. I say our community is financially challenged. So this is one of the days I must be in my feelings about my community. I said, oh, no, we're not going to do that this time, okay? I mapped it out. We had 17 places in Russell that sell some type of alcohol product. And I'm going, no. In our Family Dollar, where we're located at, you've got a liquor store right across the street on 15th Jefferson, which is not too far from here. And then around the corner, you've got the dollar store selling some type of beers, okay? So why in less than a block we need another place, a third place to sell some type of alcohol product? So okay, I get on the phone, I call my cohort down in the Shawnee Neighborhood Association. I also called this council person, and she said, okay, so we decided to work together, okay? We decided to have a writing letter protest to the ABC board. But we also decided to have a rally at the Family Dollar. What I did not know was the churches had gotten involved as well. So I believe in a one-woman protest. I have no problem with that. I can walk the streets by myself. I don't need anybody else. But I had some of my neighbors to go with me. And we covered Russell, getting people to sign the petition. So, you know, as you know, the day of protest, you always have that panic. I'm not going to be the only one out there. You know, me and my grandson. But the Sunday before, I had my grandchildren and my children. We were writing protest signs. No more liquor stores. We had that, okay? My granddaughter, she's 6 years old, okay? And you can imagine how she's writing. But she was involved, okay? So day of the protest, we had elected officials out there. We had the news camera, and my communities are like that. They showed up and showed out. Okay, from 6 years old to I think I was 60 something. I don't know. But anyway, we protested. Bottom line is, we sent over 300 signatures to Frankfurt. Family Dollars applications were denied. But I want to say this too. Before I decided to do this protest and all this, I tried to contact Family Dollar by phone and email, and they ignored me. Can you imagine anybody ignored me? They ignored me, so that ticked me off even more, okay? But we showed up, we showed out, and the application was denied. That started to turn the curve for the community. It's like, we did this for our community. Nobody else came in and directed us how we did this. So as our pop was getting started, we were out there in our orange shirts, the color of those bags with the white stuff out there. We were everywhere, okay? We were at the grocery store in those 2 weeks before COVID hit, okay? We were everywhere, okay? And so when we started telling people about this is our community, how we can take control, we don't need anybody else to come in and do for us or decide how we should live in our community. We did this with the Family Dollar stores. So can you imagine a community that's financially challenged going up against a big corporation and winning? And if that didn't have us jumping for joy, doing the Holy Ghost dance, nothing else did. And so I seen the tide begin to turn. They said, we can do this for our community. We have a right to make a decision, a choice about what goes on in our community. And if people that come into our community don't want to work with us in our community, well then they won't be in our community.
I definitely agree. Page 81, where it speaks to the challenges, really embody the culturally responsive components of our pop. And I can speak when we're talking about pivot. So I'm just answering the question from my position as part of the advisory committee for the Russell Storytelling Project. Because even in that story of that moment of the protest and community looking at each other like, yo, we did that. It was us. And we can reimagine this space and the way we interact with each other. I would definitely nerd out on minute to minute. And Cassandra knows we don't have enough time to like, no, Miss Jackie, tell me what happened right there when he said that to her and all those parts, because those, when we talk about leadership, community leadership, organizational leadership, or an individual just standing up, it's those tiny, tiny moments. And I can say traveling to Baltimore with the wonderful funding that was available to see today's best practices that exist. There was different moments that was about open-heartedness and as a form of leadership and providing grace for yourself in shared leadership, being in formation. So I saw different moments where there was grace, there was forgiveness, there were no's. So that was really cool when there was a no that came either from the leadership team, and the no was good, and it had a reason, and it could be explained. It was about capacity, or we're tired, we think they're tired, they said they're tired, so that's where we're gonna stop. So that moment of hearing no's and yeses, and maybe, or let's explore that, or I apologize, or we apologize. Anybody who was on that journey saw that it happened multiple times, and there were so many reflective practices, and because it was intergenerational, like we heard different sounds, different voices, different perspectives all the time. We held space for it, and like you felt the hum of it. And yes, I would want to do minute by minute of how it started, the beginning meetings, of getting those yeses for funding, for collaboration, for even the research, the moments where the research team, that at any point, it was anybody on the team, it was anybody in the community, and the research could just be a phenomenal conversation with a Russell resident. So that type of, I just nerd out. Nerd out. Okay, we have about 3 more. We'll have 3 more minutes for a short question. Then we have 10. Okay, we have minutes for Q&A from the audience. But just really quick, if there's any book, YouTube video, quote, or something that you read, because this group was well read. I mean, they could like spin circles around a lot of people about unity, vital, like just try with the art pop about any topic, and they got you. So what quote, book, or I don't know, prayer, anything that you would say this was something that I would go to that I recommend for others just to follow up on their learning. And it could be something short as we think about in just 1 minute or less about what you would recommend for some folks to go home and read.
Everything, okay, so I'm not even gonna start there, but the quote that I love, I use in my community is, our voice, our choice, our community.
Everybody, our voice,
our choice, our community.
All right.
I'm supposed to say, I would read this. And I would. Honestly, I would. But really, the quote, and I wanted to say this earlier and forgot, on the back of this book, my other favorite page, it says storytelling is resistance. I've really unpacked that and recognized the notion that the preservation of stories, therefore preservation of stories is resistance, and was able to look at the work that I do at LSB as a political act, and really kind of pivoted how I show up. It's one thing, you think storytelling and it's the rocking chair at the library or something, like it can be really that, but that's not what this is. This is a political act, and this book, it's gorgeous. But what it details is a political act. It's preservation, telling your story is an act of self-preservation. And I think we are at a time where just get through the day can sometimes feel like an act of resistance. And being able to own your story is a way it's a balm. And when I hear Jackie tell that story, I was looking through here because she had a picture of her and her grandson in front of Family Dollar. It did not make the book.
He's very upset.
We didn't own the rights anyway, but the importance of even photographs to do that. We all know that would be a marker for that moment. So read this.
Okay. All right. Y'all have y'all time. We have 5 minutes for questions. Anybody have a question about the process? I know folks in here have been at different points of the process, so there's different spaces, but any questions or comment or feedback? Yes.
Well,
you don't need, oh, okay.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
All right.
So, historically, Louisville is notorious for creating silos, such that neighborhoods are often and have been historically at odds rather than coming together, understanding that we are one city, we are one people, and the like. My family originates from Parkland, which also has a level of historicity that, is only paralleled by Russell. And I want us to be able to do what Russell Place Promise has been able to activate through its people, through its community members. And to be honest, I don't know where to start. This convening has reignited this desires in the back of my mind to be at work and the kids and all of this over there. But like you were saying, there are so many more stories to tell. I don't know where to start. How to get people excited because they too have such a rich part in history. Absolutely. Talk to my grandmother just real quick. Talk to my grandmother about when they brought the highway through Parkland and about how there was farmland.
Yeah.
And people who knew that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just don't know where to start. I want to know your insight, your suggestion.
Can I say something right quick? First, you start with the history. But did you know that Parkland was its own city?
Absolutely.
And then had a tornado, and it was incorporated back into Louisville, and then it left the city of Louisville again for its own city, right? And then it happened to come back. And people don't know that, but it's very important that you have that history that you be able to tell people. And you tell it with such pride, it's like fire, it catches on. And if you get one person, the other person gonna tell somebody, and it just keeps coming back. And especially, I want to learn the history about Little Africa and Parkland. I've heard tales about it, but I don't know. And I'm a history buff, okay? I don't know that history about it because it's so many folks, when they talk about Little Africa, you can see that pride just jumping out of their chest, how they made it through no matter what, and everything like that. So,
And I just want to, as our resident historian, what just shared was someone saying loud and proud, there is this amazing history. Do you know the story? Do you know the story? You just said that. And Russell has, Miss Jackie, and it'll be interesting. The Miss Jackies we cannot replicate, but the Miss Jackies in Parkland. But you're in the right place. Yeah, would you like to add?
I was just going to say, you've already started it. That desire and start talking to people who know more than you do. That's exactly what I was thinking. Become that Miss Jackie.
I don't have a question, but a follow-up comment. I think that when you're thinking about preserving histories and stories, that it's those people with the resources to support those types of initiatives should start seeing that supporting the narrative shift with dollars and resources is one of the ways to continue to do that. We have the Louisville Story Project that is trying to document these histories, but they have capacity issues. There's lots of stories that could be told, but with their small staff as a nonprofit, they can't do that. So how do we, and I'm representing the funding community, how do we rethink the deployment of resources so people can take in their own hands the preservation and the resharing of their own stories, because the narratives have been so one-sided for centuries? How do we begin to equalize that by providing the resources so people can do the work that they want to do? So Story Project could expand to Parkland, or to people who are from Highland Park, who were totally displaced and erased when the airport was expanded. I think it behooves us as funders to start thinking about how do we deploy resources differently.
And just checking if there's any other questions, just to add that amazing part of innovation. Awesome.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Letitia Lipscomb. I am the Director of Engagement and Relationships for a transformational entity in Grand Rapids, Michigan called Amplify GR.
Okay.
And I would just like to compliment you guys on how amazing this presentation, this book, some of the bits and pieces that we've learned about how you unfolded this project in Russell is. It is absolutely outstanding. We started something similar in Grand Rapids with a work group that's called Art Amplified. And so we started a project called The Souls of the Neighborhood because we heard resoundingly from neighbors, like the engagement framework is critical to what we do. it's very important to have that feedback loop consistently with the people, for the people, by the people, so that you're executing and rendering and pairing resources with the things that people want and desire. Grand Rapids is a very well-endowed community. We have some of the greatest philanthropy in the nation. And so I'm just curious to know, you guys talked about the layers of your project, which is so incredibly impressive. I want to know, where did that come from? Did that come from the artists themselves, or did that bubble up as a result of the unique collaboration between residents and community stakeholders?
I would speak to the, as an advisor, I would say it was all and above. That's why I love hearing about the early planning, because the heart of it was like that. And we came to the table where we had Daphne and Dynea speaking directly to the art project, and they were saying, look, this is the first time we're doing this. So we are very open to suggestions, and we're actually a little nervous. So they were extremely vulnerable. It wasn't like fake, like strategic vulnerability. I'm going to do that right now, 5 minutes. No, it was like honest, we don't know what we're doing. And then Daphne's like, I don't even think of myself as an artist. Now Daphne who did so much work, right? Is an artist and a leader and more. But the vulnerability was always there. The apologies were ready. Just like, look, we figured it out, or we don't have capacity, or we do have capacity, we can explore. And Cassandra and the team was able, the senior leadership was able to delegate. So it wasn't any like hovering and micromanaging. There was, and if it was such beautiful symphony. I was blown away. I was like, what? So I'm still scratching to figure out like, what, how did they do that? What the many layers, like how did it happen? Was it the team? Was it the artist? What was it?
Yes. I think you spoke to it. It is just what you witnessed with this particular project. That kind of collaborative leadership. Cassandra is a dear, dear friend. I've told her many times I would work for her in any capacity, because that level of openness and willing to say, you know what, we don't know what we're doing, and I'm going to trust you to figure it out. A lot of it is just that. Having young people who are willing to say, like you said, strategic, willing to say, I don't know, let's figure it out. Like it really, and there's nothing more communal than that. It's saying we're all at this table occupying one seat. How do we figure it out together?
Oh, that is so beautiful. Now we have 1 minute. Did that answer your question? Okay.
One question. Hello, I have one quick question suggestion. Do y'all have a TikTok? No, that's serious, because Miss Jackie, you have in New York what I would call an OG swag about you that I think could go viral. And I say that to say, as a storytelling entity and platform, TikTok and Instagram, there's a gentleman in Chicago named Six Figure Dylan, and he does these videos talking about different histories of Chicago from a Black perspective, and they go viral all the time. And I've learned so much about that city. And I think that you, some of the folks in this room, and you already have the media collateral for it. So to the extent that you can get your voice online and really bring, because really Russell Plays a Promise is an autonomy project. And so if you could bring that lesson and scale it so that other small Black communities around the nation, which some of the funders in this room are aware about, could learn from, that'd be awesome.
So many pivots. So I know if the team come together, they would feel a way. But if we can give a round of applause for our amazing panelists. Thank you. Yes.
still working. But I just want to let you know about this, and I got to give a shout out to Elder Serve, okay? Elder Serve, it's a senior center that closed right before the pandemic, and it has reopened March the 1st, okay? And so the first day that we're planning to have a soft opening, we're expecting maybe about 15 or 20 people, right? I looked out the window and it was supposed to open at 10, at 9 o'clock, we had these ladies out there on the sidewalk. I'm going, but we let them in, and they came in, they were saying, we are family, they were happy to be back home and everything. By 4 o'clock that day, we had 65 people come through that door. Since March the 1st, we have had 500 hits on our service. Okay, so I just want you to know that I couldn't convince Dr. Douglas to swing back over serve so you can see my sexy seniors doing their thing yesterday. But if you have a little bit of time tomorrow, please talk to Dr. Douglas, perhaps Cassandra, to come down there because we're going to do some line dancing tomorrow morning. We're going to do some church exercise. Hey, girl, the line dancing for these sassy 60 seniors, girl, I can't do they something else. And today at 11:30, I am on the radio. We do a weekly radio show talking about our sexy seniors and what's going on in the community. I'm trying to get Ramona to bring her mother down there so that we can go shopping together and everything like that. But I just wanted to tell you, you have a bunch of sexy seniors in the community that know the history and will be willing to sit down and tell you about the history of Park, Russell, Smoketown. So we have to sit down and talk to our young folks about the history because that gives them a sense of pride and it also gives them a sense of more where they came from and where they are going.
Yes. All right, let's rock. Finishing this up, but we appreciate you in your work of elevating stories of leadership, of shared leadership and collective work, and joy, and radical joy. So thank you so much. Yes!
How your experience versus your personal, especially as humans. We each hold a mini capsule of history that is made real by our senses, our ability to think and memorize, and our ability to communicate. In a world in which history is often used as propaganda, the actualization of our uniquely individual histories is resisted. Storytelling is resisted. It can be thought suppressive myths and stereotypes and bridge generational gaps. Storytelling is truth. We are each the experts of our surroundings, and our voices are honest and full of reason. We may have television, but the revolution will not be televised. We may have history books, but the revolution will not be published in them. The revolution will be spoken by you, by me, and by our community. You may have ears, but will you listen? Utilizing the voices of 3 Russell residents, this project seeks to admire the art that is storytelling.
So give another round of applause to our panelists. The voice that you all heard over the speaker was actually Donnell Marshall on our team. Before she joined our team full time, she had a couple different roles. She worked for the Summer Works program on our team for a couple of months, helping us with canvassing and doing a youth voice project. And then she joined us also as an intern in her last semester at the University of Louisville in the Pan-African Studies program, really supporting our work. And then she joined us full time and led the storytelling project with Daphne Walker, who is also on our team. As we continue to think about storytelling, I want you all to please visit our exhibit over here. Once again, There is art from For the People Next Door exhibit, as well as from Y'all Lift, which is Louisville's first guaranteed income program. We worked in partnership with Metro United Way, as well as several other community partners to plan and implement this guaranteed income pilot. If you're not familiar with guaranteed income, please let us know. We can share some resources with you all. But this was Louisville's first. The focus of Y'all Lift was to provide 18 to 24-year-olds in the Russell neighborhood, the Smoketown neighborhood, and the California neighborhood. All three of those neighborhoods are historically Black neighborhoods in Louisville, to provide them with guaranteed income for 12 months. So each participant, 150 participants, received $500, no strings attached, for 12 months. We launched that program back in April of last year, and actually this month we are wrapping up the program. There are guaranteed income programs across the country. They have various groups that they work with, whether or it's young people, or it's elders, but we decided to really pour into the young people of our community and focus in on those three neighborhoods, especially what was going on with COVID at the time, and still the lingering impacts of the pandemic. There's so many economic challenges young people in particular are facing and were facing. And so this guaranteed income pilot project was such a beautiful opportunity to say we believe in our young people in these three neighborhoods. And we believe that this guaranteed income program should be something that doesn't just serve the three neighborhoods, but should really be extended beyond that. So also over here, it is 4 artists that were participants in the Y'all Live program. They participated in the Photo Voice project. And I'm just gonna read an excerpt from the exhibit. So the exhibit is called Take This. It's a photo voice exhibit addressing economic security and the prospects of guaranteed income. In support of storytelling efforts around our community's guaranteed income pilot, Y'all Live, which stands for Young Adult Louisville Income for Transformation, this photo voice exhibit lists the voices and experiences of 5 young artists in our community. We believe poverty is not a choice, but rather an institutional failure, perpetuated by systemic lack of resources. Systemic disinvestment and social welfare distrust have had inequitable effects on under-resourced communities. We value the voices and livelihoods of our young adults. When our young adults succeed, we all succeed. The decisions about how to secure financial equality are systemic and often made without the voices of those most directly affected by those decisions. Individuals living in neighborhoods with concentrated poverty. To address this shortcoming, this project focuses on young adult, community-based participatory action using photo voice as a medium to understand why steps to achieve guaranteed financial income are necessary. The artists include Caitlin Hume, Brianna Lovely, Kevin Ramsey, Lauren Webb, and Decorion Young, also known as Lettuce. Take This is a partnership project between the Height Institute of Art and Design at the University of Louisville, Metro United Way, Russell, A Place of Promise, and the Social Practice Lab. I want to give a special thanks for Mary Crothers, who is a professor at the University of Louisville that really helped these 5 young people, these artists, put together the exhibit, as well as Rebecca Flowers, Haven Ramsey, Annabella Cockrell, Colin Riley, John Nevitt, who are both from Metro United Way, Maya White, who is a researcher and consultant on the team with Russell Place of Promise, Cal Carey, and Michael Coop. So please make sure you check out the photos from the Photo Voice Project, as well as the other art from the Russell Storytelling Project. We are going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll resume with our sessions.